This is the Nano Cruising Podcast, the podcast about dinghy cruising and trailer sailing. It's basically the podcast about small boat adventures. I'm your host, Stefan Marceau. Today we get to talk with Eric Zilbert. He is the Commodore of the Potter Yachters Association. Eric will tell us about how he started in sailing, his first experiences, how he found his first Potter, how he found the Potter Yachters group, and a lot of advices for trailer sailors. Today we have Eric Zilbert. He's the Commodore of the Potter Yachters of California. And I'm very interested, having a Potter myself and having started in Potters, I'm very interested to learn about this group. There's groups all over the world, but today we're talking to the Potter Yachters of California. Eric, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you. I've heard a lot about you. You've got a long history with Potters and the group. So before we get into that, if you could tell me about how you got into sailing, your sailing experience. And I understand you were a Sea Scout, and how did that move you into the sailing, and how do you stumble into the Potters? Let's get to that.
Well, I had a very interesting upbringing. My mother was always on the outlook for good programs to get kids involved with so they'd be out of her hair and she could read. So what she did was she found this program. And I'm telling you, this woman, we did archery. We did all the plebeian sports pretty much. She took us, we did dressage, we did We had a lot of money. We were a middle-class family, but she felt it was really important to enrich her kids' lives. So we did, all these very British things, tennis, archery.
Wow.
And then along came, when I was about 8 or so, she discovered the Los Angeles County Junior Lifeguard Program.
There you go.
Which was a wonderful thing because it took your kids at 8 a.m. and it basically kept them till 1 p.m. And she liked what they did, because what we did was we did calisthenics. We learned how to, we did swim runs. We'd run a mile, swim a mile, and then run a mile. And we learned how to paddleboard, and we learned how to canoe, and we learned how to sail Sabbath.
Nice.
And so I learned how to sail a Sabbath at 8 or 9 years old.
Wow.
And at about 10 years old, I went to a thing that was called the Nationals. And what it was actually the junior lifeguard competition for the state. And so we went to Cabrillo and we got to enter into different events. And so we played volleyball, I remember. And I remember I was involved in an ocean swim race, which I lost. But I came in second in the Sabbath division for my age.
There you go.
And from about that time on, I think you would say I was an addicted sailor.
Good for you.
Yeah. So anyway, I sailed with the guards. And then my dad bought us a Corolla Junior, a 12-foot sloop, when I was about 10 or 12. We took it to Mexico a number of times. My family were big campers and travelers. And actually, the guy who first invented a sailboard was a co-worker of my father's at the Rand Corporation. And he invited us to go down to this little beach south of San Felipe and camp on the beach with them. And they had these huge gun surfboards with these huge sails on them. And his name was Hunsiger. And I could not pick up the sail. That's how small I could not pick up the sail on one of those sailboards. But I sailed with the guys on those things. And then in later years, we returned with the Corolla and stuff.
Nice.
And then, basically when I was 15 or 16, I got recruited actually into the Explorer Scouts, and I did a basic one turn as an Explorer Scout herding Boy Scouts.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of events that occurred and things that occurred that kind of turned me off on that. And a young lady I knew was 2 years older than me and extraordinarily attractive asked me if I was interested in helping to start up a Sea Scout post in Marina Del Rey.
Right.
And I said, Joyce, I would love to. Happy as hell. And actually, one of I guess the first serious sailing experience I had was with my brother, where we went in the Sea of Cortez and we put our sleeping bags and some backpacking food and stuff into the Corolla and sailed out into the Sea of Cortez and just into the void because we had no charts or anything. And we knew we could beach it. We knew we could camp on the beach. We could eat. And we went out for 3 days. And my folks were nuts about this kind of stuff. They let us go backpacking and stuff. When now I would, for my sons, I would have thought that was kind of young, 15 or 14.
Yeah.
But they were like, oh, yeah, you guys can do that stuff. So we did. And I remember a manta ray passing underneath the Corolla Junior, which was 12 feet long.
Wow.
And the wings of the manta passing under us the length of the boatway, not the width of extended beyond the boat in both directions.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
pretty interesting. And we saw some hammerhead sharks, and but it was that was my first real serious off the charts adventure.
great
So yeah.
stuff.
Anyway, and then I didn't sail for many years because I went to college and I worked in Salinas. I had
Life takes over. Yes.
life took over, and I had a dinghy for a while, but I didn't have a boat till I came back to Davis as a lecturer and research agronomist here, and my dad gave me back the Corolla Junior.
Okay.
And so I had by that time children, and we used the Corolla Junior. We went to Mexico with it twice, but it became very evident around 1998 that this boat wasn't going to satisfy the needs of the family anymore. And that's when I went out and I found the Potter 19.
There you go. So
I've had my Potter since 98. I've been a Potter Yachter since 99.
wow. So tell us about that. So you found your Potter. You were alone, or you started in the group? You found the group? I don't know the history of the Potter Yachters.
Oh, here, this is an interesting story. So I was looking at boats, right? And I actually thought I was going to buy a Catalina 22.
Mm-hmm.
Because it met most of my qualifications. It was a good
Tons of those boats too.
family. There's tons of them out there. They're sold all the time. The thing I found out about Catalina 22 is it wouldn't fit in my driveway in Davis. It was too long. I would have to do something radical to my garage or to something to get a Catalina 22 to fit. And I stumbled upon the manufacturer's webpage at International Marine for the Potter 19. And I said, I gotta find one of these. It'd probably be interesting to look at one of them at least. And I did. The guy was in he's in Nevada. It's Lake
Havasu, is that one of those?
Havasu. Yeah.
Havasu, yeah.
The boat was on Lake Havasu, and the price was right. It was like $4,000. My dad had just given me an old Ford Taurus, and I told him, Dad, would you mind if I didn't keep the car but just sold it and used the money to buy a boat? And he was like, oh yeah, okay, that's a great idea. So
great.
So I told the guy, done deal, buy the boat.
Yes.
He said, yeah, good. So then I get an email back from him a few days later. So, I sold the boat, but the guy I sold it to, he's got it for you. It's just that I was able to get, the McGregor I wanted, and he had it, and he's got it, and he's going to honor our price. And I'm going, oh, sure, yeah, right, thanks.
Sounds
so anyway,
complicated.
I called the dude, and the dude says, yeah, I got the boat here. And I said, well, you know what? I'm coming down for a conference near there in Escondido. and I'll come and look at the boat with you. When can we look at it? So he set me up to come see the boat, and we actually went out on Mission Bay in San Diego with it
Nice.
because he was a dealer in San Diego.
Okay.
And the moment I stepped on the boat, I knew, oh yeah,
This
this
was
is
the
the
boat.
boat. Because my wife doesn't like tippy boats. It's like stepping on the Queen Mary. It doesn't really react to the fact that somebody has stepped on the boat at all. I mean,
It's very
you
stable. Very stable.
yeah, you step into a Montgomery, or you step into any of the boats that are around.
Yeah.
Maybe not a compact, but many of them, and it's a very tippy boat. And so I thought, oh, this is a very solid boat. This is good. And so, yeah, we took it out for a sale. Loved everything about it. Told him, yeah, it's a deal. Didn't want his motor because I wanted a 4-stroke.
Hmm.
And he told me, I'll deliver it to Davis for $200. And I said, well, that is really a deal. Yes. Okay. And he said, I think you'd enjoy this boat a lot more if you check out the Potter Yachters. It's a club up here in Northern California, and they do a lot of sailing. And so if you want to sail, check out this group. And so I did. And it was a match made in heaven because
Great.
it was exactly the kind of motivation I needed. And, we went in all, gung ho, all fours. I remember the first sale we did was an Angel Island sale. And when we found out people were just going to have lunch at Angel Island to go back to Richmond and stay on the marina, we said, no way, we're staying on a mooring buoy. And so we did. And we proved the adage that Potter 19 will sleep 4 people once. Those 4 people might not ever agree to sleep in it again.
And to do it once. Yes.
Yeah, it rained. And so we had to have all the people and all the gear and everything inside the tent in the thing. And actually, to be fair, my family and I sailed on it for many years, all 4 of us.
Right.
But it was quite a night.
Nice.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, we've enjoyed the boat tremendously. And one of the things, when I got the boat, I thought about it just like I sort of presented it just now. Is it was for the family to go out on different adventures and experiences, and be the 4 of us mostly. And I guess 2 things happened. The first being everybody got older, and the second is everybody got, disparate schedules after a while.
Right.
So, for years we did everything together. Then I discovered the real joy of the boat was that I could have, a week trip with my dad, or
Nice.
I could have a week trip with my son, or just me and my sons could go and do the Enchanted Islands in Mexico,
Right.
or,
Amazing.
me and my wife can just go out and do nothing and just hang out off of Benicia and then come back and have, dinner or something like that. So
Yeah.
the versatility of the thing just exploded, and it's been like that over and over again. I mean, if you look at my boat, it's been on the Sea of Cortez, and it's been in the San Juan Islands.
Nice.
It's
You've covered
been
a lot of ground with that, right?
been on Tahoe,
Yeah.
done 100 sails on the bay probably.
Right. Yeah.
But it's always a different mix. Sometimes it's some friends. Sometimes, my oldest son and I have done the Catalina trip together 4 times. One time we did it with my dad when he was 75.
Nice.
I raced in the the Cruiser Challenge each year, and it's been every single year pretty much. I joined the club in 99. I bought the boat in 98. I always say it was my midlife crisis boat. That's when I was 40. And we've been doing that Monterey Challenge every year since then. Maybe missed a year in there somewhere for a foreign trip or something. But basically, and I've sailed that race with both my sons, my dad, my wife. The only one who didn't do it is my mother.
Mm-hmm.
But she's only 96, and I might do it with her yet. I can't say enough about the 19, and I can't say enough about trailer sailing in general.
Right. You became pretty involved with the Potter Yachters. I mean, they've been around for, I guess, 50 years or so, and you became pretty involved as well with them, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, after a number of years, I was one of the more experienced skippers. There's a lot of throughput. I was looking at the roster recently, and I realized that I have the third longest tenure in the organization,
Mm,
right? And I joined in '99.
right.
There's one woman, Judy Bloomhorst. She joined in
I know the
1998.
name. I know the name. Absolutely.
Right. And then, before that is Jerry. He joined in '75 or something like
Oh
that.
my God. Yeah.
It's a kind of a bittersweet thing because you meet a lot of people you like, but they all tend to be older and eventually they fade away in one way or another. But the, becoming, I have this big problem of not liking ineptitude.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I get my biggest kick out of just showing basic capability. He's competent. That's all I want people to say about me. Not he's excellent, not he's wonderful. He's great. He's competent.
He knows
He
what
can
he's
do it.
doing.
He
Absolutely.
knows what he's doing. And so, yeah,
Of
I knew what I
course.
was doing. So I was for a very long time the P-19 fleet captain.
Right.
P-2, there used to be a P-15 fleet and a P-19 fleet. Now we call it the small boat fleet and the medium boat fleet, which is perfectly great because it's not all P-19s and P-15s anymore, but it's still dominated. I was just surprised looking at the roster how dominated it is by Potters still.
So you're not just Potters anymore. You're any trailer boats basically now, right?
And we've gone on about the name of the club actually, and
Mm,
we're really the largest and oldest trailer sailor organization in the country. There were several hundred members, at one time, and it's decreased, considerably over time. But the fact of the matter is that I don't think there's any group of trailer sailors, and yeah, we're open to anybody who's a trailer sailor, and we have members in Massachusetts and we have members in Hawaii.
oh, is that right? Okay. Right.
It's what we came to the conclusion was pottering is a state of mind.
It sure is.
That the potter
Absolutely.
is to fool around in a small boat. And so it's not about the name so much. And there's some old timers who might disagree with me.
Yeah.
So far, it's worked. This is working for us, and we're working hard to try to recruit more members, and we think we understand where we can have an impact, and we're really working at it this year. This is my second go round as Commodore. I was Commodore right through COVID,
Okay.
basically 2020 through 2024 or 2023 or something like that. And then somebody else took over. Nobody would jump in to take the Commodore's position again, so I came back.
So, what are your new strategy to try to get younger people or new members in? What are you
Well,
thinking?
we're trying to focus on yacht club sailing instruction programs, really.
Good idea.
That flyers up in all the yacht clubs, in front of the people doing that,
Right.
offering to come and do a sail in and show the boats and stuff, and then doing things like this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to talk up, the wonderfulness of trailer sailing, because I've saved tens of thousands of dollars on bottom work and slip fees
Yeah.
by keeping my boat in my driveway, and I can
Absolutely.
drive for an hour to Richmond, and I can spend the weekend there for 3 nights for maybe $60. And there's nice restaurants there. I sail out of there and I go, poof, I'm in the bay and I'm going around Angel Island. I'm looking at Alcatraz and the city and Treasure Island and everything else. The sailing opportunities, with a trailer sailor are really good. I mean, you have to be willing to, go through a little bit, but I mean, it's different than rolling up at the dock and hopping on board. Another thing we're doing is we're trying to put our sailing schedule in latitude 38.
Good idea.
so that people can see what we're doing.
Nice.
And then last year we became members of PICYA, and so like I'll be talking to PICYA.
I'm
On the
sorry, what's
second
PICYA?
part,
What's PICYA?
the Pacific Inter-Club Yachting Association.
Right. Okay,
So this
good.
is the association of all the yacht clubs, California. Our branch seems to be Northern California, but there's dozens and dozens of clubs involved, and we're just trying to, be members, go to their clubs, and tell them about ourselves and encourage them
Yeah.
to encourage their members, to participate on our sales if they're trailer sailors, and just talking up trailer sailing in general. But yeah, we're always very welcoming to people who want to participate.
What advice would you give someone who's trying to get into trailer sailing or considering microcruising?
Well, I think a great thing to do would be to find some people who are doing it near them and go out and sail with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we are talking that up in terms of our activities and trying to get the word out there that contact one of the fleet captains if you're interested in doing a trial sail, and they'll set you up on our next sail. So if we're going to be doing a sail in Stockton and you live around there, then give a call to the P19 or the P15, actually small boat or medium boat captains. We have a large boat contingency now too, because we have some Santanas and some Catalina 22s in the group. Early on there was kind of an adversity to these other boats being included because they're afraid they'd take over. Basically, there's so many Catalina 22s in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've gotten over that.
What activities are you planning? What kind of trips are you planning? Overnight, longer ones, and
Yeah. Well, the thing that's happened, and you're a P15 sailor.
yeah,
A P15 is a fantastic boat,
but it's a slow
but
boat. We're always beyond everybody.
it's a slow boat. But no, what's fantastic about it is in a P15, I know I can show up at 9 and start sailing at 10 and finish sailing at 3 and be driving out of the parking lot at 4 because it's so easy to set up, launch, retrieve, and take down. It's a great day sailor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's capable of doing overnight sails as well, which makes it a really fun boat. And the thing with the P19 is that you can get there and set up and sail and then take it down for an hour and a half, but it's a little bit more of a lift. And so what we found in the club, as people trended to have the bigger boat and as people tended to be older, we gravitated toward more multiple day sails. So for example, we just did a sail at Richmond, which we basically advertised as a tune-up sail. Mm-hmm. So basically, get your boat out, come on down to Richmond. We'll sail around some in the harbor, maybe go out of the harbor, but not try to do anything too extreme. But if you want to come, and there'll be experienced people there, and they can help you with your boat and whatnot. So we had 7 boats show up. But the fact of the matter is I arrived on Friday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And set up, spent the night Friday night, sailed Saturday, spent the night Saturday night, sailed some Sunday, and then took the boat out because it's just much more pleasant to set the boat up and take it down on different days. Mm-hmm. And
yes,
if possible, not even adjacent days, in my view.
Makes you enjoy it more. Absolutely.
This year's calendar, goes. So we had the sail in Richmond in February. In March, we have a sail in the South Bay at Coyote Point Yacht Club. They do a big fest for St. Patrick's Day. So they've got Irish dancers and a big
Nice.
dinner.
Nice.
And so you could go for the day, but it's basically a Friday, Saturday, Sunday gig again with dinner Friday and Saturday at the yacht club, and then pack up and go home on Sunday. And then in April, we have two sales. The first one is out of Rio Vista, and this one was actually requested by some members who wanted to try and anchor out without a marina involved. So we'll be going out of Rio Vista and going up into Prospect Slough or Slough, and then spending the night there, and then coming out the next day. People who don't want to spend their night there can go back to the marina in Rio Vista if they like,
Nice.
or whatever.
Nice.
But we've done a lot of sales in the Delta at that time of year, where we've generally gone to a marina and then, spent the night and come back from the marina. And then the other sale in April is a kind of traditional sale from Richmond to Oakland. So we sail to the Oakland Yacht Club, spend the night there, and have dinner there. And then the next day we come back from Oakland. And it's a nice sail because, it's like Richmond. At Richmond, people can elect to sail inside the harbor if they don't have a lot of experience or knowledge, or they can try to circumnavigate Angel Island. And the last few years, every time it's been a balls out race around Angel Island. But, this year, George really, was concerned about some of the newbies and getting them out there. So we did a thing where we were like, really, we're just fooling around here. And Coyote Point's the same way. It's just kind of fooling around out there off the San Francisco airport, checking out Candlestick Point and going back.
Nice.
Oakland is nice because you can go around Angel Island and Treasure Island either on the windward or the leeward side. So if you've got a P-15, you can take the shorter, easier route on the leeward side of both islands. And if you're looking for, some white knuckle stuff, you can go around the outside of Treasure Island and a reverse rounding of Angel Island, which is always exciting. Because, it tends to be the wind comes out through the Golden Gate at quite a brisk rate in there. We call it the slot.
Yes. But
then in June, we have a lake sail. It's up at, I skipped May. In May, we sail out of Moss Landing on the coast. And so that sail's all about looking at baby otters and looking at whales.
Nice.
And,
wow.
Basically, we stay at the harbor there. We go in and out of the harbor. Sometimes people take off and do an overnight at Monterey, 15 miles away, or do an overnight at Santa Cruz, 10 miles away. But mostly everybody just kind of hangs around there, enjoys the bar.
It looks like you've got a lot of great trips together.
Yeah. And then after that, we have a lake trip at Union Valley Reservoir, which is an anchor out as well. And then we have a trip to the trip to Catalina, and then in August, in July, we've got another trip on the bay, and then we have our trip in Monterey in August. So anyway, we have a great calendar this year, and we're going to go to the Channel Islands for the first time.
Nice.
out of down there in Oxnard.
Oh, that's amazing. A lot of great plans this year and every year apparently. So that's amazing. I'm jealous. I definitely want to. All those grounds I've read about and I want to explore them too. So it's definitely.
I know, we've done other things. I did 2 trips with my brother on the Columbia River that were really fun.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to cover that we for the club you want to talk about?
Well, I just think that one of the things people need to know, about trailer sailors is that, if you've had a boat and, it's a bigger boat and you're tired of paying for, slips and boat cleaning and all that, a trailer sailor that you can, put next to your house under a tarp can keep you sailing for a long time after you thought maybe you didn't want to sail anymore. Especially if it's something that's fairly easy to tow and set up. And then also, if you've learned to sail and you don't think you'll ever be able to afford to have a boat in a marina, that I tell you, I think I get as much fun out of my 19 footer as I do when I sail with my buddy in his 40 footer. We basically
Totally. Hmm.
have lunch and come back. I mean, one thing I've done on a couple occasions is I've moved the boat around. I've had it in harbors, but I have it in one harbor for 2 or 3 weeks, and then I move it and sail it to another harbor where I have it for 3 weeks. And actually, the condition of marinas now is that berths are going begging. I mean, they've got open berths. For most places, it's very economical.
Yeah. Yes.
And depending where you live and what your sailing options are. I mean, for people in the Bay Area, I just wrote a piece about this. Where I sit here in Davis, I have access to some of the best sailing grounds in the world. And they're all within a morning's drive. I mean, it's
That's fantastic.
it's really outstanding. And like I said, the experiences that we've had with the boat have been tremendous.
Amazing. Just curious, have you gone back to the Baja, California? I know you started there when you were a kid. Have you,
Well, when I was a kid, we did it, and then we
have
did
you
it.
gone back with the Potter or no? Eh?
I did the one trip with the
Oh,
Potter
did
that's on
you?
the web.
Nice, nice.
You can go read about it, and your listeners can read about it. It's the Islas Encantadas, and
Nice.
if you say Zilbert with the words Islas Encantadas, you will find this story.
Nice.
The only combination that comes up with that, and it's a great story. The boys and I spent a week exploring the islands, and yeah, it was just an off the charts adventure.
That's
You
great.
can't believe you did it after you've done it. But
That's great. That's great.
I had that much confidence in the boat, and in the technology that's
Absolutely.
available. Because the
Absolutely.
technology now is very good, compared to when I was a Sea Scout. The GPS technology, your cell phone technology, just your ability to back up your systems with multiple ways to figure out where you are and where you're going. Uh,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
it's really gotten better in that respect.
Yeah,
And
much more comforting for that aspect,
yeah,
definitely. So,
well, and that's the thing is that gosh, I think of the sailing I did when I was in my teens in that 12-foot boat. We did all sorts of wonderful adventures in that boat. I mean,
yes.
literally. And before that, in Baja and just in Santa Monica Bay, and
Yeah, absolutely.
we had a terrific time with that boat. And my kids and us had a terrific time with that boat up here sailing almost exclusively in lakes, though we did do some sailing in the Delta. That was pretty fun.
Nice.
But we combine it with a camping trip, and that's the kind of thing.
Absolutely.
What I always like to say is that we used to be a family that did a lot of camping and backpacking. And when you get to a Potter 19 instead of backpacking, you're really in luxury. You got a nice chest, baby.
That's right.
You
That's right.
don't have to pitch a tent.
No, no.
The padding is this thick, 3 inches. Think of it.
Yeah, you don't have to inflate it or anything. Yeah.
Extra blankets, we got those. Towels, dry towels. You
Fantastic.
know, I enjoy cooking on my Potter quite a bit, and when we do a trip, I often prepare, coffee and breakfast for everybody on the trip, right on my Potter, serve it off of the cabin top.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, they're very very friendly and useful boats, and there are other trailerable boats that are equally as good.
There's a lot of
Very
good boats. A lot of good boats. Absolutely.
yeah. I'm very jealous of Phil Marcellus's Catalina 22 with the wing keel. Man, I just look at the space inside there and I, holy heck, we could hold a dance down here or something. And yeah, it's not that much bigger or bigger pain to set up than the 19.
And
If
you've
you know what
got probably Montgomery's 15, 17s in your area, I would assume.
yeah,
They're probably
the
pretty
15s
popular too.
and the
Good boats.
17s.
Great boats too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're great boats. The 15s and is faster than a Potter 15 and the 17 is faster than a Potter 19.
Everything's faster in a Potter 15. So
Yeah, but the accommodations aren't quite as good in those boats, and
right.
every boat's a compromise depending
Everyone's
on
a compromise.
what you want,
Yeah, yeah.
and also every boat can be improved depending on how much effort you want to put into sailing it better. I sailed for years on a Camper Nicholson 50. I sailed for a long time on a Etchells, and then I've been sailing on a Santa Cruz 40. And I have to say, you get almost as good an experience for very less money on one of these kind of boats that we're talking about.
Absolutely.
And these boats are out there,
yeah.
and they don't cost a lot.
Yes.
If you get one and you do it for a while and you decide you don't like it, you can probably turn it over without much loss.
Exactly. So
it's pretty much, a win-win-win situation if it's something that you're interested in. And, on an average day when we're out sailing, I can count maybe 30 or 40 boats out there on the bay, and there's 8 million people around us. Yes. So if you want to do something a little different than run-of-the-mill, get a sailboat. It always comes back to this boat. And even, after all these years, 27 years of sailing the boat, I am still anticipating the next sail. I still can't wait to go.
That's a great.
What more can you ask?
You can't. That's the way.
So, yeah, you are kind of far away for the Potter Yachter for the Monterey Bay Challenge, but you don't have to bring your boat. That's the other thing. We're working on a lot with people.
Oh,
you have to bring your boat. You can sail with somebody else.
Right.
And actually,
that's not a bad idea.
Our sailors and the hearing of our sailors and the vision of our sailors and the strength of our sailors, having somebody else along who might be a little more agile and able to hear is good. That's a good thing. Last thing for the Potter Yachters is that when we come off of one of these trips, right, we all get together and put our hands on top of each other. Cheated death again.
I like that. Thank you, Eric. It's been fantastic to hear your stories and your enthusiasm for Potter and small boat sailing, which is great.
I'm an enthusiast for all boat sailing.
Well, Eric, I'm really thinking about that offer to flying out of California and going and Potter Yacht with you folks. So for our next episode, we have Diane Whelan. Diane is a movie called 500 Days in the Wild, where she bikes, walks, and canoe across Canada. It's a really great story, and she has a lot of great advice to tell. So do come back for that. Thank you to the Nano Cruising community for listening and spreading the word, for sharing this podcast with your friends. I really appreciate it. Until next time, you should know this one by now. Seize your own adventure.